George, you ever get tired of talking about this?
Not at all. It was a positive thing. It's a positive thing. You know, it wasn't a ground ball that went through my legs or a strikeout. It was something that I did good. I hit a home run off one of the toughest relief pitchers in baseball, a Hall of Fame guy, and if I did not use an illegal bat, which I didn't. It was proven I didn't, but suspected of using an illegal bat. We wouldn't be doing this. It would have been a July 24th game 30 years ago that no one would have remembered. But when the umpires called me out and my protest kind of made it famous. And then the reversal of Lee McPhail, who was then president of the American League, and John Sherholtz and Dean Taylor writing a letter to protest the game, and then Lee McPhail overruling the umpire's decision, having to go back on an off game or an off day and finish the game from that point on. I mean, that doesn't happen very often, and so that's why, you know, we're doing this today. But all in all, I'm very proud of my actions, obviously during the time, and my actions after the time, too. It showed the type of player I was.
First time you saw the tape?
I couldn't believe it. I had no clue that I did that. West Arkansas did a George Brett bobblehead, and the head doesn't bobble, but my arms do. So it's I'm still trying to get some of those because I think they're pretty funny. But no, it's just, that's the type of player I was. You know, I wore my emotions on my sleeve, and I played hard. And when a call like that goes against you, you're going to react. They're watching, and Frank White says, "Man, you got a lot of pine tar on there." I remember John Mayberry, I think, got called out on one of those, you know, last year before I was, or not last year, but when I first came up to the big leagues or something. And I'm going, well, if they call me out for using too much pine tar, I've never heard of that rule. I'll run out there and I'll kill one of those SOBs. And as soon as I said that, Tim McClellan turns around and starts looking for me in the dugout. And like anything, you don't realize. I mean, I think I totally blanked out because I don't. When I saw the video, I was amazed at my reaction. But Timmy stands 6'6", weighs about 250 pounds, and his line today, everywhere he speaks, and he's known as the Pine Tar umpire, and does a lot of speaking engagements, you know, in towns all over the Midwest, and I know he lives in Des Moines, but he always talks about it and always brings me up. He says, George is 6 foot, 205 pounds. I'm 6'6", 250. I got shin guards on, a chest protector, a mask in one hand, and a bat in the other. What were you going to do to me, George? I said, I wasn't going to do anything, just come out and yell. But then Brinkman grabbed me from behind and started dragging me away, and that's what made it look so bad.
What were you yelling at him? Do you remember?
I know. I know. It wasn't something you say in front of children or on live TV or on the news. I used that bat a couple days, and Gaylord Perry was on our team, and Gaylord said, George, you're using a very, very expensive bat right now. That bat's worth a lot of money. And I remember taking some alcohol and towel and cleaning the bat up until 18 inches. I even drew a little red line where the 18-inch mark was. Kurt knows that, right? And used it for one or two games, and then all of a sudden Gaylord said, you're crazy to use that bat, and so that's when I took it out of play.
The collector and
Barry Halper. I sold it to him immediately because everybody in the world wanted it. I sold it to him, and then about a month later realized that that bat's mine. It should be in my possession. So I called him up, and I had a bat that I used the day I hit 3 home runs off Catfish Hunter at my house, and I said, hey, look, I want the bat back. I'll pay you whatever you paid me. And
Can you tell us what it was worth?
$25,000. Gave me $25,000 in cash.
What did you give him back?
$25,000 and a bat that I used to hit 3 home runs with.
Good job.
And then I gave the bat to the Hall of Fame. But, you know, a collector doesn't deserve that bat. I think it belongs in the Hall of Fame. So that's where it is.
Do you like to go by it now when you go back?
Whenever I go back, I always go and look at it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I wish I wouldn't have cleaned it up. Back in the old days, bats were plentiful. It's not like now if you go into the Royals locker room, into the bat room, where Mike Moustakas might have 6 dozen bats. Back then, players didn't get that many bats. And I even remember when I played, you would order, most people would order a dozen bats at a time. Well, Al Zeke was a great friend of mine, so he always ordered me 2 or 3 dozen at a time, knowing that you're going to get some bats that aren't very good wood in them. And so Al and I would inspect all the bats, and we would take the bad ones out, give those for gifts or charities. Others I'd use in BP, and we'd save the game bats for games only. And when bats weren't as plentiful, from my understanding, guys would put little finishing nails in there if they had a little crack in them and put more and more pine tar on it, and then guys would hit a ball, and the ball would get a black smudge on it, and the umpires would always throw it away. And so they decided to come up with a rule to save baseballs that you cannot put pine tar 18 inches above the handle of the bat. That's my understanding of where the rule came from.
George, I think you're saying in New York, wasn't that a special bat?
It was a really good piece of really good bat. Bats are, you can tell a good bat by how many grains it has in it. That's the hardness of the wood. And, some of the bats that I might use, maybe 10 grainers, 12 grainers or something. This one was 7. So the grain was real thick on it, which means the wood's even harder. And I probably used that bat for a month, because the Yankees were in town 2 weeks prior to that in Kansas City, and they were aware, from what Greg Nettles has said, and Billy had said, and Goose have told me, that they were going to call it in Kansas City if I did something of importance in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning to help the outcome of the game in our favor. Well, obviously that didn't happen. And then I was still using that bat 2.5 weeks later. So, it was a real good bat. And I didn't break a lot of bats anyways because I stood so far off the plate. But I used that bat for a long time.
George, how could you put that much pine tar on a bat and not use gloves?
I never used gloves.
No, that's what I'm saying. How?
Well, you needed it because of the grip. There was probably 1/8 of an inch of pine tar where the grip was, and probably 1/4 of an inch of pine tar where you put it on. But it's just, if you keep using the same bat over and over again, and the bats that I used, they weren't treated at all. They were just raw ash. So they were real white, and then it kind of gets in the grain, and it grows up the grain a little bit on the interior of the bat also. And that's what made it so bad. It wasn't the pine tar forsake on the outside of the bat. It was just growing into the grain, and that's what made it look really bad. We don't talk about illegal bats anymore. We talk about illegal steroids and things like that, performance-enhancing drugs. That's what people are talking about today. I just had to sign a waiver so I could get drug tested if Major League Baseball wants to test me. I'd love to see the results in their eyes when they get that test back.
George, three batting titles, 3 decades, Hall of Fame, so many amazing. Where does this rank, or do you rank your memory?
The pine tar?
Yeah.
Oh, it's what I'm known for. It really is. From 1980, playing in the World Series against the Phillies when I had the case of hemorrhoids, and every time I went on the on-deck circle from 1980 to June 24th, 1983, I heard every hemorrhoid joke in the world, and I was the hemorrhoid guy. All of a sudden, after July 24th, 1983 to now, I have to remind people I had hemorrhoids. So what would you rather be remembered for? Well, let's be realistic. The slippery stuff or the sticky stuff,
Where are you stand in terms of the hitting coach thing right now? Have you given any more thought to how much longer you want to do it all?
No, not really. Not really. I have a meeting with Dayton in the next couple of days. We'll discuss some things. But we have a game tonight, and I was in the cage earlier with some of the guys, and I'll be in the dugout tonight, and hopefully get more than 5 hits and 2 runs.